Hey guys, and welcome to my first episode for my first TV journal episode for the Netflix original series Daredevil. I just saw the episode, and I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on it. Not an official review, but just like the Friends TV journals, just my thoughts on the episode. And this is going to be completely spoiler filled, so I'm assuming that either you don't care about spoilers or that you have seen episode 1 already. With that being said, let's get right to it. I like this pilot. It intrigued me. It got me hooked, and I'm so happy that I don't have to wait a week to watch part 2. That I can just like sit down and watch them all over the course of just a couple of days, well, if I felt so inclined. And now let me be clear before I get too ahead of myself. These TV journals will not be replacing the Friends TV journals if you've been following them. It'll be in addition to. So I'll do a Friends, then a Daredevil, Friends, Daredevil, or just about like that. Now, this is Marvel's Daredevil based on the comic book property and completely disassociated with the early 2000s Ben Affleck Daredevil. But one of the gnawing questions about Daredevil as a series, and there's going to be a few other series, Power Man, Iron Fist, and one more, that are all going to be Netflix original series based on Marvel properties. One of the burning questions people have had is, are they going to fit in with the cinematic universe like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. does? And they were really coy about it for a long time, but at some point during this first episode, they officially said this is happening in the same universe as the movies. There's only like one or two references, but they were very clear. They were very clear references and didn't feel cheesy at all. It felt very much like it was focused on Daredevil and telling this story, but just letting the fans who want to know, letting them be aware that this happens in the larger shared universe. Right off the bat, we open up with the scene where Daredevil is he like beats up some. I think it looks like they were human traffickers, throwing this group of girls into this big crate down by the docks of, I guess this is New York City. And right away, I was thinking Arrow and Batman Begins. Same deal, fighting the shadows, black costume, fear tactics. And I was a little bit worried at first, but really quickly they pull away from Daredevil, which I really liked. This entire episode focused a lot more on Matt Murdock, who is Daredevil's alter ego, a blind lawyer who in this incarnation, he's just recently set up shop with his partner-in-law, Foggy, I think his name is. Presumably somebody from the comics, but I mean, he served mostly as comic relief during this episode, although he didn't seem incompetent. They take a case about this girl who's been mixed up with the company or the organization that Daredevil in the opening was attacking, in some way involved with this human trafficking business. And it's a combination of like 70% of the episode, Matt Murdock trying to prove her innocent, 30% of the episode, Daredevil trying to fight the mob or whoever these people end up being. It was a very brutal show. It is very much more adult, or at least less family friendly than the movies have been, the Avengers movies. Right off the bat, you get some pretty gruesome fight scenes as opposed to like the more clean stuff you'd find in Thor or in Iron Man. I mean, people die in Thor and Iron Man, but you don't see blood generally. And we did see some in here. There was some partial, almost not quite nudity. It's had a much more adult, more gritty tone, which I think really fits Daredevil, and which I think this is going to be Marvel's answer to those darker characters like Daredevil, hopefully, but not officially announced in the future, maybe Punisher or Ghost Rider, or even if they ever get to the right backs, the the rights back to like Deadpool, to stick them in these TV shows that have the ability to go darker than the movies generally would. Um, but they right off the bat established that this is going to be a crime show, at least as much as it's going to be a superhero show. It's much more about fighting crime than saving the world, which is good for a TV show as opposed to a movie. But what intrigued me most was the premise of the villains. The villains, they seem to be like a group of criminal organizations working together with one big shadowy figurehead who is never seen, is only mentioned, he's never even named, which I imagine it'll end up being like, maybe not the Mandarin, but somebody from the comics probably, that as soon as the fanboys hear his name, they'll be like, oh, really, it's him. But this group of criminals is like profiting and investing heavily in like basically damage control, cleaning up after the superheroes, like the events of Avengers 1 when New York was just like destroyed. And so they are capitalizing on the heroes, big superheroes' waste, which is a neat premise. If there was a flaw in this episode that I saw, it was that it focused heavily on the story at hand, which is good, and that the villains at hand, which is also good, but it kind of didn't really give us a whole lot of explanation for Daredevil and his powers. I know because I saw the Ben Affleck movie that he was blinded as a kid because of this chemical spill, and we see that, but it also gave him like super hearing and super smell and like just like a better general sense of everything, which allows him to become a superhero. Doesn't quite explain, but I think that'll be explained in later episodes how he got so good at fighting. Maybe like, trained with the League of Shadows or whatever. DC reference. Anyway, it didn't take a whole lot of time to explain exactly what his powers were. It just sort of said, okay, here's this blind lawyer who is also a superhero at night, and it kind of showed that he had super hearing, but not really specifically. And I'm worried maybe that the show is relying on you to understand who Daredevil is, at least for this first episode. Maybe they'll explain it better later. I hope they do. But I'm curious if somebody watched this who didn't already know who Daredevil was, would they just be like, why on earth can he do these things? But we will see how that turns out, and I'm really intrigued to see who the big villain turns out being, how Daredevil eventually, if ever, ties into the larger cinematic universe. I would love to see like Hawkeye or Black Widow show up in one of these episodes, or maybe down the line, like Avengers 4 or something, see Daredevil make an appearance, or like maybe in one of the smaller films. Or now that Marvel has the rights back, Spider-Man. I would love to see Spider-Man because he's a street-level fighter in one of these episodes, which maybe not in Daredevil. I think it was finished before Spider-Man, but before the rights reverted, before Spider-Man had joined the cinematic universe. So it was good. It was dark. It was a little shaky on character development, but not a whole lot, and it was very much focused on the story it wanted to tell, as opposed to just reveling like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in the fact that it was in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm excited to see where it goes, and I can't wait for episode 2. I'll see you guys later. Bye.